dance, the ladies smoke dance, and then ending with the hoop dance for you. We will be sharing some information for these dances. Any indigenous dance that you come across, they all have meaning. There's history there. So we'll be sharing a little bit of that with you today. Please do keep in mind any questions that do come up. There will be times for you to ask those questions. We'll take maybe one or two questions in between each dance. We appreciate the questions. The questions show us that you want to understand. Proves that we want to move past the stereotypes as a society. A lot of misinformation out there about indigenous peoples. So if you want to do your part, asking those questions is a great way to inspire that educational environment. Now, I also want to address pictures and videos. It's always good to make sure that that's okay to do. Sometimes it's not allowed with the indigenous dances. During this presentation, you may take those pictures and videos. We're giving you that permission today as long as we look good in them. Okay. I'd like to introduce myself in my native language. We chakpil hitahawia hemayet. Star chief ko machapi washichimi chaje kushto. Si chango oyate hamataha menelizaha awati. Pilame amedako yapi oyase. All right. Do I have anybody that wants to come up and translate for the people? Just kidding. What about what native language do you guys think I spoke? You got any guesses? I am from this area. I'm a local. You find many of my tribal members in this area as well. Think I heard it. What is it? It is the Lakota language. Some of you maybe cheated, heard that off the announcement too, right? But yes, it is the Lakota language. So can I have you guys say Lakota? Lakota. There you go. As you may have heard on the announcements, they said, I am Rosebud Lakota Sioux. I want you to think about that in the way that we say our city, our state, our country. They are within each other. They are subgroups of each other. That is the same thing with Rosebud Lakota Sioux. You think about these three hoops, the overall group is known as the Sioux. Three dialects of our language spoken. Lakota, Dakota, Nakota language. And then there's smaller bands within each of these three dialects. For example, Rosebud, Lakota, Sioux. Or Pine Ridge or Oglala, Lakota, Sioux. Or if they're Dakota, it'd be like Crow Creek, Dakota, Sioux. So let's see if you guys are on the same page. If you are Lakota, does that mean you are Sioux? Yes, because you're a part of that group. Now, if you are Sioux, does that mean you are Lakota? No, because you could be either Dakota or Nakota. Could be Lakota, but doesn't guarantee it. Now, it's true, my tribe is known as Rosebud Lakota Sioux. That is how we are federally recognized by the United States government. However, this is not our real name. Traditionally, we did not call ourselves the Sioux people. This is a name that was given to us by those to the east. You hear about Lewis and Clark and what they did on their journey, documenting down all the things that they see, all the people that they meet. Well, first mentions of our people did not happen here. It happened out east. They got to describe the people out west. They asked them, who are we going to meet next? You're going to have complications, people speaking in different languages, different native languages than the English language. But that's what got written down with Sioux. That's what got used for hundreds of years. That's what they still know us as today is the Sioux. We know that's incorrect. We know that's not a real name. We say that from time to time so people know what we're talking about. People usually know, oh, Sioux, I've heard that before. I can kind of get an image in my mind. But how many of you would recognize the real name? How many of you have ever heard of the Ocheti Shakowi, which means 7 council fires? We are working as a people to gain awareness of such issues. We are not the only tribe that went through this. Like I said, a lot of misinformation out there. Those Hollywood movies really didn't help us out. They enforce those stereotypes. Not everything you see in those movies is true. For today, Ocheti Shakowi, because that takes time to practice, time to say that, to remember that. I'll go by Lakota instead. The name of the dialect, the name of the language. Easier to say, easier to remember than Ocheti Shakowi. Sioux might mean snake in that language to the east. Lakota, Dakota, Nakota means the friendly ones. I believe I am more friendly than I am a snake, okay? So can you guys say that again? Lakota. All right, what I said in the Lakota language is my Lakota name is Brave Star Woman. These Lakota names are given to us by our elders, by our community. It's an honor to receive that. I do have an English name as well. It is Star Chief Eagle. My last name, Chief Eagle, comes from one of my grandfathers, one of my great-grandfathers. He was a chief. He was a Chief Eagle. My family decided to use that as a last name and pass that on down throughout the generations. Again, I am a local. I'm from this area. I am a dual citizen of the United States government and also of my tribe, Rosebud Lakota. Thank you very much for allowing us to share our culture with you today. Midako Yapi Oyase were my final words and my greeting. This means all my relatives. I welcome you all as relatives. This is a traditional Lakota greeting to say hi relative, welcome relative. It means that we treat each other the same kindness, same warm heart, same helping hand, same respect that we would a relative. We address the public in this way. We address strangers in this way. It's common courtesy amongst the Lakota people. Treat each other in that same way. Traditional Lakota greeting. Thank you. We do have a special guest with us today. She is going to be doing the ladies' jingle dress dance. Her name is Sophia Benali. I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to her today. She's going to go ahead and take this time to introduce herself. So let's give her a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Ha Mirakiapi, Chante Washtena Pechugapi, Sophia Benali Ska Majapi, Avela Pomni Ina Majapi, Hes Benalia Te Majapi. Yate, She Sophia Benali Yenishne, Ado E de Koresu Yenishne, Ado E Nake Dene, Ado Shemae, Avela Pomni, Hulie, Shaje Hes Benali Hulie. So I just spoke to you in my two languages. First was Dakota, and my second language was Navajo. And what I said was, hello, I greet you all with a heartfelt handshake. My English name is Sophia Benali, and my Dakota name is Pretty Golden Eagle Spirit Woman. My mom is Avella Pomni, and my dad is Harris Benali. And I am Dakota, Kilkik Dakota Sioux tribe, and I'm from Navajo. Fun fact about me and my mom is, you guys all know about Lewis and Clark, right? Like, everybody knows them. So, my 5th great grandpa is Lewis Merriweather. Merriweather Lewis, yeah. So, fun fact. I'm going to be dancing jingle dress and fancy shawl and smoke dance. So, I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you.
Now, Sophia Benali has been dancing for about 10 years now. She is going to be doing the ladies' jingle dress dance, fancy shawl dance, a smoke dance. She is a lady of many different talents, has a lot of different energy. We do want to support her throughout this dance, so I give her a round of applause, especially if you see something you like in particular. Now, again, we are going to start with this ladies' jingle dress dance. Hence the name Jingles. There are jingles on this regalia here. They are actually hollow cones that chime together to make that music. They're not bells. They don't have anything on the inside. Long time ago, we used whatever kind of metal materials that we could find. But nowadays, you're going to see the snuff lids, those circular lids, those tobacco can lids, curled into those cones, tacked on the regalia. It is said to be a healing dance, said to originate with the Anishinaabe or the Ojibwe people up to the northeast, up into Minnesota, up into Canada there. This story of this dress, this dance here, said it started as a ceremony. It's said to have cured a sick girl. They shared this story with those around them, and it spread throughout the plains. Now it's one of the very popular dances that you see in this area, surrounding areas, up into Canada. The First Nations people do the jingle dress dance as well. So ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and give her a round of applause as Sophia performs the ladies' jingle dress dance. So again, that was the ladies' jingle dress dance. Now this dance is said to have started about a couple hundred years ago. Really difficult to keep track of some of these dances because they do change over the course of time. We do have a living, breathing culture. Indigenous peoples, we are still here today. For example, I am representing one tribe, the Sicangu people. Well, that's only one tribe out of the 9 federally recognized tribes in South Dakota. That's 9 out of over 570 some federally recognized tribes in the United States. And there are far more that are not recognized. And there's even more tribes up in Canada with the First Nations people. So we are still here today. We are still practicing our culture. We do carry on our traditions. We do have our old styles of dance, the old regalia, the old materials that we use in that as well, different furs, different feathers, old songs that we carry along, that history. But we have that contemporary side as well. You might see the newer materials that are being used. For example, what I'm wearing here. Do you think that we had this a couple hundred years ago? No, this was certainly something that was adapted into the culture. This is something that you guys might see at the powwows of today. Those gatherings, those celebrations, powwows all across the Americas. Many of them open to the public, open to sharing about the culture, about the history, about the people. Those powwows are open to anybody as long as you are respectful when you're there. Now I want to go ahead and take maybe 1 or 2 questions, maybe about the jingle dress dance, maybe about the information that was shared, or giving her a little bit of that time so she can change into her next dress. Yes. Yeah, so he's wondering about the drummers, the singers, the songs that we listen to. Me personally, I like the drum group Northern Cree, so I use a lot of that. Northern Cree, they are from Canada, so they speak that Cree language. They do have indigenous words in those songs. Now, amongst many different indigenous music, you might hear something like, hey, ya. Well, that's kind of like if we were to sing la, 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 la. And then there are indigenous languages in those songs. There's meaning there. Now, to the Lakota people, we believe that that drum beat represents the heartbeat of the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people. It gives us a good positive feeling. That's something that you're going to feel right here in your chest, especially if you're around that live drum. If you ever get to be around that live drum at like a powwow, you feel that right here. As dancers, it makes us want to dance. So special meaning behind there. Men and women do practice the drumming amongst different tribes. For Lakota people, Dakota, Nakota, it's generally the men that will touch that drum. Usually the women will sing behind them in support of that song. So does that answer your question pretty well? I know it was a very general question that could go many different directions. And that is some of what I have heard about that drum and its importance to our people. Also, Northern Cree, very, very popular amongst the indigenous communities, amongst those powwows. They've even been to the Grammys. So they are big shots. They are big shot drummers. So any other questions before we move on? All right. Keep thinking of those questions. We'll go ahead and answer questions after this next dance as well. This next one is going to be called the Ladies Fancy Shawl Dance. This dance represents that contemporary side of our culture, that newer style of our culture. Fancier style, a lot of times fancier regalia with that as well. It's all started in a time when we were not allowed to express ourselves as indigenous peoples. For those of you who don't know, in the late 1800s, the United States government actually banned many of our native practices to conduct our ceremonies, to do our dances, to sing our songs. And during this time, we weren't allowed to speak our own languages as well. We had to learn how to read and write in English. We were sent to the boarding schools, a lot of the children. So we weren't allowed to express ourselves as indigenous people. Our culture, our way of life was dying out. But one of the things that helped to continue our culture, helped towards the survival of our culture, it was a bit of a loophole. Those Wild West shows, those Wild Bill shows, they said, well, because that's for entertainment purposes, you can do your dances there. So our people said yes, because there was people starving on the reservations at the time. It was a way that they could provide for their families back home. It was a way that they could express themselves as indigenous peoples. So these newer age style dances were born. Brighter colors, brighter regalia, more intricate footwork, a fancier style. That's why it's called a fancy dance. Started with the men's fancy feather dance. This is the ladies' version of this dance. The shawl draped around her arms, it draws inspiration from the different winged creatures, maybe the grace and beauty of the butterflies, maybe the strength and the power of those eagles. Now, Sophia Benali, she's a brave one. I certainly couldn't do it, but she chose one of the faster songs to perform to for this style of dance, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, let's give her another round of applause. She's going to be sharing the ladies' fancy shawl dance. And one of the most rememberable questions that I think someone asked here, I think yesterday they asked this question. A young boy said, does that regalia get hot when you're dancing? Yes, it does get really hot while we're dancing. And to give you a better idea what our dancers go through, especially when they're at those powwows, think about it this way. Sophia danced to about a minute song. Now, if she were at a powwow, that song would regularly be maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe dancing 2 or 3 songs in a row, and then she'd be dancing all day long. And at some of those competition powwows, they dance for a few different days, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then if you have a tiebreaker, you gotta dance some more. So yes. It gets really hot, takes a lot of energy. She regularly does attend those powwows. Now, unfortunately, many of those powwows are canceled. Many of them were postponed because of this COVID. She was happy to be here at Crazy Horse Memorial and be able to practice, be able to express herself through these dances. Let's give her one more round of applause. Ladies, fancy shawl dance. Now, while she's getting ready for the ladies' smoke dance, is there maybe 1 or 2 questions we can ask? Yes. Yes. So the movements that you see, the different footwork, there are a lot of general footsteps that might be incorporated in a lot of different dancing. But what you'll see is at the powwows, maybe a certain dancer gains a lot of respect. Maybe a certain dancer wins a lot at the powwows. While other people are going to notice what they're doing is different movements that they're doing. Maybe they start a new style in that dance, different style of footwork in there. Definitely the footwork that she was doing was a lot more contemporary. It was very, very intricate. But the order that they put their footwork, that's all up to them. That's all how they express themselves. That's all about how they're going to be dancing just to the beat of that drum, what they feel like doing in that moment. Okay. So that's a style all her own. Okay. So good question. Is there maybe another question? Yes.
Does the dress that they're wearing, whatever it might be, does it carry a message as well?
Yes. Definitely the different designs that we have on our regalia. Sometimes those designs tell a story. Sometimes they're significant to the dancer or the dancer's family. Sometimes they're significant to their own tribe. A long time ago, we would be able to scout out and see someone coming from a distance. We would be able to tell whether they were friendlies, whether they were enemies, what tribe they were from, a lot of times by what they were wearing. What we wear is often unique to our own people. So right here on the plains where we have a lot of buffalo, certainly going to see that inspired in a lot of different regalia is that buffalo. Think about it this way. Maybe a tribe over in the east coast of the United States, maybe they don't have buffalo over there. Well, it's not going to make sense for them to use that in their regalia. So a lot of times the environment, what we have around us, inspires what we wear in our clothing. So yes, definitely meaning there. Any more questions before we move on to our next dance? All right. So this next dance that she's going to be performing is the ladies' smoke dance. Now it is inspired by the men's smoke dance, in which warriors would portray themselves, would express themselves to the people, sometimes intimidating the people with this dance. There's different stories about where many of the dances come from, the history behind them. This one here, sometimes people say, well, maybe it was meant to put out the smoke inside of the long combs, those tribes to the east. Some people say, well, no, it has nothing to do with the smoke, but it's meant to be portrayed by those warriors. This is the ladies' version of that dance. Started in the East Coast people. Everybody's heard of the story of Pocahontas, right? Hopefully we know by now the way that Disney portrayed that, totally wrong from what really did happen. But Pocahontas was from one of these eastern tribes, so this is a dance that maybe they would have been performing. The ladies' smoke dance. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I have heard this with many of our indigenous dances. As I said there before, a lot of them are contemporary inspired, have contemporary aspects in that as well. I've heard tap dancers come up and say, hey, that looks like a tap dance move that we use. You know, some of our dances, sometimes other types of styles of dance, they say, hey, we have something that's similar to that. Well, that very well might be. Maybe a popular dance at the time. Has anybody ever heard of like the Charleston dance? It said that the Charleston dance is influenced in many of the indigenous dances of the women, especially when we kick our legs really high up in the air. Some people say, well, that's inspired in that dance because that was what was popular at the time. We have often two different cultures. We're living in two different worlds. We have our indigenous side, and then we also do live in America. Do you think that we go out and hunt our buffalo like we did a long time ago? Nowadays, we usually don't. Usually, we go to maybe Walmart or a different grocery store, just like everybody else. So we're living in both worlds like that, while at the same time we are carrying on those traditions. So I do want to thank Sophia Benali for all that energy, the different dances that she did share with us today. Jingle dress dance, fancy shawl dance, smoke dance. I certainly could not bring as much energy as she has up to here at Crazy Horse Memorial. If you want to know why, I'll be doing this final dance, which is going to be the hoot dance. If you want to know why I dance last at the end of the show. You may have seen me interpret the different dances. You see me up here. I'm talking to the audience here, educating everyone here. Well, when I dance, I am actually out of breath when I get done dancing. So I can only do one dance, and that's got to be the end of the show. So I do save that for the end. This hoop dance is actually one of the more rare dances. Not all Native American families are all good at dancing. Not all of them have that language. Not all of them have the beadwork or their art in their family. It's really different from family to family. Sometimes people have to take it upon themselves as they get older to reconnect with the culture in that way. For instance, my family, none of them do beadwork. That doesn't mean that I couldn't learn that when I was older. This headpiece that I'm wearing was the first bigger piece that I made about 5 years ago. That's something that my family doesn't have. But what they do have is my family are all hoop dancers. That's something that they shared with me at a very, very young age. I picked up my first hoop actually before I could walk, before I was one. I slowly started to add on more and more hoops. I started to work on the story that I would tell with my hoops. And it was up until I was older I decided the kind of story that I wanted to share. This hoop dance is going to represent the story of my life. I'm going to start off with one hoop. That is going to represent myself being born. The animal shapes, creatures, those are going to represent the different stages of my life. And the last creation is going to represent the person I am becoming. With this hoop dance, we do not hula with these hoops. It is one of our older styles of dance. We tell stories with these hoops. We make different animals, shapes, creatures. We represent the different things in nature. And that all goes back to the meaning of this hoop. This hoop is a symbol of unity across many different nations. Represents all different tribes, all different races, all different ethnicities, all different cultures. But it also represents the unity that we have within our environment. The earth, the sky, the animals, and the plants. Our Lakota people, our entire culture, our entire way of life are based upon the belief of being a good relative to everything around you, treating everything with respect. We want to treat our environment with respect. We need our environment. We want to treat the buffalo with respect, not taking more than what we need, trying to use every part of that buffalo so we're not wasting, then thanking the Buffalo Nation. It is a part of our way of life. This is nothing that has to be supernatural whatsoever. It's a part of our nature that we need our environment. We need each other. We need that unity. So it represents that balance between all living things, our surroundings, and us being a part of that. That's why it is expressed here in the hoop dance. Again, I will be out of breath when I get done dancing. So is there maybe a couple questions you want to go ahead and address before I start? You got a question over here? Is the dress specific? Yes, a lot of times the dresses are specific. The regalia is specific. Now for the hoop dance, because it is so rare, a lot of times it's up to the dancer what kind of regalia they want to wear. I have seen a jingle dress dancer hoop dance, but the problem with that is your jingles might get caught in the hoops. Okay. I dance at this dress here. A lot of times you'll see the women actually wear men's regalia when they hoop dance. It's easier to move in and out of the hoops. You'll see with my dress, I've done this a long time so I don't get as tangled with this dress. If you're new to hoop dancing, it's one of those things that we watch out for. So a lot of times our attire is based on the dance that we will be performing. Hoop dance started as a male's dance. But because it represents that balance to in all walks of life, the women started to perform that as well. I am representing the women's side of that, so that's why I wear my women's regalia instead of that men's regalia. Okay. So any other questions out here? All right. Yeah, you have a question? Yeah, what are the hoops made out of? So traditionally, our Lakota people made them out of willow tree. My dad still does have some willow tree hoops that he dances with from time to time. Those ones are more fragile. We do hand make these hoops as well, but instead of going out to nature every time we got a hoop dance, I don't want to have to cut down trees every time I hoop dance because they're so fragile, they break easy. So I go hunting for my materials at the hardware store. Okay, contemporary hoops, these ones last a little bit longer. Okay, any other questions? All right. This will be the last and final thing we'll be doing here today. Towards the end of my dance, Sophia's going to join me in the end there to represent that unity. When I get done dancing, there'll be just a couple words to say, and then that will be the end of the show. So I have a question here before I go ahead and get the music started. Are you guys enjoying this presentation so far up here at Crazy Horse Memorial?
Very much.
All right. Again, my name is Star Chief Eagle.
So just a couple things before you go. Again, the hoop dance represented the story of my life when I was born all the way to this person I'm becoming. I do have some good news. As of about a month ago, I just completed my 5th year of college and finally got my bachelor's degree in American Indian Studies from Black Hills State University. I will continue on with my education. I will continue to do presentations such like this. This is my 8th year at Crazy Horse Memorial. I also go to schools, camps, museums, hospitals, wherever they do invite me. I do want to work towards positive healing. There's a lot of historical trauma still affects our people. I believe the way to positive healing, the way to bring together natives and non-natives is through that education, through that sharing, through that understanding. We do want to invite you guys to come on over. If you like to take pictures, we can do that. We have some items here. We do appreciate that. That does help us to continue to do this. I make it out of real materials, real buffalo bone, buffalo teeth, buffalo horn, real glass beads in there as well. There's also artist in residence here. His name's Lyle Miller. You guys could go take a look at his workshop that he's doing, his studio, where it says entrance over there. You go under there and you keep going. There's a building all the way in the back, a cultural building. You guys can go check them out there. Other than that, thank you all for coming to Crazy Horse Memorial. Have a great rest of your day. Salamat.